Their unique physique and signature style make them impossible to ignore.
A bird that has staked its claim to some of Earth's most unforgiving terrain.
Using some of nature's coolest adaptations.
But now their world is being turned upside down, and without changes,
their way of life might just slip away.
It's time to dive deep into the remarkable world of penguins on this edition of Saving a Species. Hello and welcome to Saving a Species. I'm Bill Street. It's probably safe to say that most people love penguins, but loving and understanding are two different things. And that distinction could make all the difference in helping to better protect this iconic bird. So join us now as we look beyond the adorable tuxedoed image and discover an animal that must be understood to be truly appreciated.
These days, it seems like we see penguins everywhere. Movies, television, clothing, toys. The point is, we've all seen our share of penguins in the media, so we should be experts, right? Okay, pop quiz. Name a place on Earth that you're likely to find penguins.
Antarctica. Antarctica. Antarctica.
Excellent start, but I think there's some other places.
Europe and the North Pole. Canada. Alaska.
Okay, I'm calling a geographic timeout. It's time to flip your world upside down. The truth is, there are almost no penguins north of the equator. However, in the southern hemisphere, they've seriously spread their wings. Oh, sorry, I thought you had that. South of the equator, you've got penguins camping out in the woods, basking on the beach, even chilling in the desert.
So even though there are plenty of penguins in the colder parts of the southern hemisphere, tons of them are closer than you think.
In temperate climates like Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Peru, Chile, Argentina, and a bunch of remote islands in between. And then there are the handful of penguins who did venture just north of the equator, living here in the downright balmy Galapagos Islands. But one thing all these places have in common: seawater. Because no matter where a penguin lives, being in the ocean is how it survives.
Now, you might be thinking, to live in all those different locations, that's got to be one versatile bird. And you'd be right, sort of. Because there isn't just one species of penguin. You ready? Here we go. You got the Adelie penguin, the African penguin, the chinstrap penguins, emperor penguins, erect-crested penguins, Fiordland-crested penguins, Galapagos penguins, Gentoo penguins, Humboldt penguins, king penguins, little blue penguins, macaroni penguins, Magellanic penguins, northern rockhopper penguins, southern rockhopper penguins, royal penguins, Snares Island penguins, and yellow-eyed penguins.
Now, I'm no genius, but I believe that adds up to
18.
Thanks, Einstein. 18 species. Everything from the wee little blues to the enormous emperors, each sporting their own take on that signature black and white look, highly adapted to their uniquely challenging environments, from the frozen landscape of the Antarctic mainland to the lush forest and rocky beaches of New Zealand.
But sharing one very important thing in common: stone-cold toughness. These birds may not be able to fly, but they sure are built to survive.
Because penguins live in some of the toughest conditions on Earth, their battle for survival begins even before they're born. The story of penguin parenting is one of the most fascinating aspects of this animal, and perhaps best examined by a special couple who bring their own perspective both as penguin experts and as parents.
Getting to work with penguins has been a dream come true.
For both of us. But being a married couple with an energetic 3-year-old at home
Means we have to work together to make sure everything gets taken care of.
taking turns going into work,
And running the show at home
because cooperation
is the only way
we can survive. That's exactly what we observe with natural penguin behaviors. Just like us, the parents share responsibilities.
Nesting, incubating, chick rearing, hunting. For most penguin species, each parent plays an equally important role, so we can relate.
It all starts when it's time to nest. Where they make it, how they make it, and what they make it of differs by species.
Some dig into the thick layer of bird poop, better known as guano, that coats the rocky shores they call home.
Others carve out a spot on the sandy beach.
While these guys let Mother Nature do the digging, plopping down in an existing depression or crevice in the rock.
You've got a few that build a small wall of pebbles and stones.
While forest-based penguins find a safe, secluded spot to set up shop.
But the two biggest penguin species, they are the nest.
While every other species typically lay 2 eggs and warm them in the nest they build, emperor and king penguins only lay 1, and they incubate them on top of their feet.
Since it's too cold to rest the egg on the ice, the egg is kept safely off the surface.
And nice and toasty beneath a flap of skin called a brood patch. Keeping that egg safe and warm is a responsibility both parents share.
Except that is for the emperor penguins. Female emperors head off to hunt for the entire incubation period, stuffing themselves full so they have plenty to regurgitate for their newborn chick when they return.
That means the male emperors have to keep that egg on their feet for approximately 2 months, all while eating nothing.
Now, incubation may seem like a lot of sitting around and doing nothing, but there is plenty that can go wrong. Emperor and king penguins can lose their egg if it falls and breaks during transfer between mother and father. For the other species, unguarded eggs are in danger of being snatched up by seabirds, foxes, dogs, cats, rats, and sometimes even human poachers.
But in most cases, all goes according to plan, and you get this.
Those superfine down feathers serve 2 important purposes. Yes, they provide warmth, but they also set chicks apart from the adults. So it's clear to all, these are young ones in need of special care.
And that's a good identifier because chicks really are helpless. Many parents lose 1 of their 2 chicks to illness or predators. Those that survive depend completely on their mother and father until they grow their waterproof feathers and are able to hunt for food on their own.
But again, cooperation is in full effect. With every penguin species, the parents take turns. One stays with the chick, keeping it safe and warm, while the other hits the water to hunt, bringing back the chick some delicious regurgitated food.
And who doesn't like regurgitated food?
And though penguin parents hunt only for their own chicks, some cold weather species band together for security, and nursery-like groups called a crèche, which means crib in French.
Oui, oui. That crèche helps protect those chicks, both from the elements and predators.
For Antarctic penguins, many predators are other birds. Sometimes working in pairs, they will swoop down and steal the chicks that have strayed from the crèche.
One bird, the sheathbill, has even been known to dive bomb in, nabbing the regurgitated food just as the chick is being fed.
Birds are a big threat to penguin chicks in temperate climates too. Plus, they have land predators to contend with as well.
So it must be a relief when their chicks finally lose their down feathers and grow some sleek waterproof ones. It's a process called fledging, and it means the chicks are now finally able to swim.
Which means they can go get their own food, which means the parents won't have to hunt for 2 anymore. Which means for most penguin species, the message is clear. Learn how to hunt, Junior.
And they better learn fast, because the water is where they're going to spend most of their lives.
Though penguins live in both frigid and temperate climates, there's one part of the world that is always cold, the water. Even in temperate climate habitats, icy ocean currents supply the cold water that all penguins need to utilize their amazing adaptations for life at sea.
When most people think of penguins, they probably picture ground-level shots like this. But now, let me introduce you to someone who isn't most people, Kaylin Ackerson. Kaylin, you're going to help us get to know these penguins in their true environment, right?
It's what I do, Chick. And since penguins spend about 3/4 of their lives in the ocean, to really study them, you've got to dive into the freezing cold water.
Okay. Or I'm just thinking out loud here, Kaylin, but we could use remote cameras and stay totally dry.
Sure, we can do that.
We've placed cameras to illustrate how the body that waddles, hops, and looks kind of awkward on land is actually the polar opposite underwater. Kaylin, what you got?
Chuck, I've got adaptations. Because except for when they breed in molt, penguins are totally committed to a life in the water. You can see here how the penguin's body is tapered at both ends for natural streamlining. And watch how it hunches its head into its shoulders. That reduces drag. And keeping the feet pressed close to the tail helps with steering. And look at this. Underwater, their wings are paddles. Short, sturdy feathers repel water on the outside, while flat, broad bones and super developed chest muscles inside provide maximum power to generate serious speed.
Yeah, it actually looks like they're flying through the water.
Because they are. Emperor penguins average about 6 miles per hour and can crank it up to about 9. This Adelie averages 5 miles per hour, but can turbo boost to almost 25 miles per hour. And the Gentoo? When they launch themselves from the water onto the ice, they've been clocked in at over 22 miles per hour.
Seriously, how do they do that?
Easy. Well, easy for them. These tiny bubbles here are air that a penguin traps in its feathers and releases as it jets to the surface. These bubbles form a layer of lubrication that help reduce drag and allow for things like this.
But epic swimming skills aren't the only adaptation that help penguins live the life aquatic.
At the top of that list is breath holding. Man, I am terrible at that. But penguins, they're breathtaking. With a single intake of air, they can stay underwater on the hunt for long periods of time. The key is a circulatory system that sends blood mainly to the heart, brain, and major organs during a dive. Plus, penguins can lower their heart rate to 5 beats per minute. Fewer beats equals less oxygen used, so that one breath lasts a very long time.
But fast swimming and deep diving wouldn't be possible without a way to deal with the freezing cold water.
For starters, all penguins have a layer of insulating fat. But the real key is those feathers. On top of being waterproof, that air I showed you they trap for turbo power, it forms a layer of protection that provides over 80% of a penguin's thermal insulation underwater.
Yet another testament to the awesome power of evolutionary adaptation.
Of course, the reason why penguins adapted for a life at sea is pretty darn simple.
Food.
Penguins may form their colonies and breed on land, but everything they eat comes from the sea. That's why they have to spend all their available time there.
And we've gathered 18 eager penguin stand-ins to show you just what these birds eat. Who's a hungry penguin? Me! But what do penguins eat? Kaylin?
Well, it's basically this. From the little penguin to the mightiest emperor, fish, squid, and a tasty tiny crustacean known as krill are the main staples of every penguin's diet.
But which types of each and how much they eat? Well, that depends.
Depends on the species, habitat, and time of year. For instance, Adelie penguins really love krill.
But factoring in the time of year and location of their colony, the krill cupboard might be there. Sorry.
That type of scarcity may happen during breeding season, when small fish such as delicious, nutritious anchovies are pretty much all there is to eat.
Mmm, salty, hairy anchovies. Go ahead, eat it. Eat it.
Or in winter, when fish are few and far between.
But there's plenty of squid. Get it while it's cold.
The same goes for all the different species. They may prefer krill or fish or squid.
But they're opportunistic hunters, so they'll eat what's available to survive.
Because after all, penguins in the wild don't have a well-stocked pantry to supply their food.
In fact, when they're on land, they're usually fasting.
That's because breeding, nesting, incubation, and feather molting don't leave much time to hunt. So they just live off their fat reserves.
But if land is for fasting, the sea is for feasting. Penguins are ruthless hunters with state-of-the-art tools at their disposal.
Using keen eyesight to ID their target, these black and white guided missiles exhibit lightning-quick reflexes to snag their unsuspecting catch without slowing down, using bills that are built to dangerous effect, lined with sharp spines to help swallow live prey.
Gosh, seems these lovable, cuddly creatures are actually primetime predators, but they do still need to watch their own backs.
Penguins sit smack dab in the middle of the marine food web, preying on krill, fish, and squid, but targeted by larger predators like leopard seals, fur seals, killer whales, and sharks.
Fortunately, penguins have built-in security. Those black and white feathers may stand out on land, but they help camouflage them at sea. The dark feathers on their back blend in with the water when a predator looks down from above, while their white bellies disappear into the light for any unfriendly animals looking up.
A body built for speed, breath-holding heroics, killer bills, and multifunction feathers.
It all adds up to one seriously impressive aquatic adaptation package. No wonder these birds live to swim. They swim to live.
Penguins may spend 3/4 of their lives in water, but there's no more important time than when they return to land for breeding season. Some of the most fascinating penguin behavior takes place during this time, and there are even a few things human couples can relate to.
Okay, since we work with penguins,
And we're a married couple.
having us tackle the topic of penguin partnership is a no-brainer.
Now, when penguins choose a mate, it's only for breeding season. The rest of the year, they're flying. Oh, actually, swimming solo.
But when breeding season rolls around, these solitary birds become total social butterflies, and there's a lot of reuniting going on. It all starts with something called nest site fidelity. Basically, all nest site fidelity means is that the males will return to the same nest site as previous years. The hope is that their mate will return as well.
It varies by species, but more often than not, they will. Sometimes for a long time. Like the 2 Magellanic penguins scientists observed pairing for 16 years of breeding bliss and counting.
Now, it's not always fireworks and violins. There are penguin breakups, but the reasons are often strictly logistical. If a breeding pair return at different times, they may find that their mate has moved on.
Though for emperor and king penguins, moving on, it's just how they roll.
It's called serial monogamy. Each breeding season, they'll meet a mate and stay with them until the chicks are fully fledged. But then, boom, it's over.
Next breeding season, they find a new mate and pledge their undying devotion to them.
Year after that, on to the next.
But whether it's for life or just for one season, there's a lot riding on finding a suitable mate.
And fast.
Breeding seasons are pretty specific.
So when they return to the colonies, they're ready to make their case for a mate crystal clear.
Most penguin species use visual and auditory displays to let a potential mate know they're interested.
And though penguin breeding pairs are all about cooperation, when it comes to courting, the female calls the shots.
To get a potential mate's attention, the male penguin might stake out a good nest site, and then it's time to bust out the ecstatic display to alert the females.
An ecstatic display looks a little something like this. The penguin will dip his head down low, stretch his neck up, stick out his wings, and bray loudly.
Pretty suave, huh?
Now, if the female likes what she sees, and in this case, why wouldn't she? She might very well do this.
Bowing is her way of showing that she's interested, that she's not a threat, and the male will hopefully reciprocate.
Once the female has chosen her mate, that's when the party starts.
Wah! Wah! The mutual ecstatic display strengthens their bond.
And lets everyone within earshot know that these penguins are a pair.
A breeding pair will keep this up throughout the season, especially when they switch places for egg or chick care, greeting each other after the long separation.
And with some species squeezing hundreds of thousands of penguins into the same area, proper identification is a key to success. You know, there's really no better example of the bond that penguin pairs share.
Yeah, it's a bond that's key to the survival of the egg and chick, and that's something that anyone can relate to.
For all the things there are to learn about penguins, perhaps the most important one is just how threatened so many of them are. It's an issue close to the heart of our own Corey Oxman.
Each day in my work as an animal ambassador, I get the opportunity to spread the word about the importance of conservation. And when it comes to penguins, I speak from firsthand experience. In 2011, I traveled to Antarctica, where I observed several penguin species whose numbers have been steadily decreasing in recent years. The effects of pollution, overfishing, habitat destruction, and climate change have made the already tough fight for survival that much more daunting for many penguin species. However, the situation is particularly urgent in South Africa. That's why, through its ambassador program, SeaWorld has sent members of the aviculture team to work with the Southern African Foundation for the Conservation of Coastal Birds, or SANCCOB, as part of their chick bolstering program. With so many penguins lost to oil spills off the coast, this is truly a last-ditch effort to try and ensure this species' survival.
So there's always been natural factors involved in the mortality rate of penguins, but now you add in the human factor of climate change, oil spills, and loss of habitat. The penguin population is decreasing at a tremendous rate. And that's why we as humans need to step in and offer our assistance and change those factors that we can.
Using techniques and formula developed at SeaWorld, volunteers would tube feed each penguin chick each day.
So we had over 400 chicks while I was there. I was only one of 15 volunteers to take care of those penguins. It was a really long day, feeding them 6 to 7 times a day.
But all the hard work was rewarded.
Seeing those birds swimming off into the ocean was just an incredible experience. I can't even explain it to you. I just get choked up thinking about it. But knowing that what I did for those penguins is going to help them in their natural environment is just an amazing feeling. And if we don't do something, those African penguins are going to be extinct in our lifetime. And I don't want to see that.
It's not just the African penguins that are in trouble. All 18 penguin species are protected because they face many challenges to their survival. But there is hope. If enough people put these positive actions for penguins into action, it can have a profound effect.
Pollution is a problem bigger than the ocean, but you can turn the tide by organizing or joining an environment cleanup in your area. Take a cue from the Gentoo. These resourceful penguins reuse their old feathers to help build their nests. What will you recycle today? Wild about fish? Penguins are too. So make sure there's plenty for everyone by supporting sustainable seafood. Penguins, people, every living thing needs water to survive. So use less and use what you do wisely. SeaWorld and other conservation partners have helped save hundreds of penguins caught in oil spills.
But you can make a bigger difference. Walk or bike to reduce your use.
Then log into SeaWorld's My Actions website and let everyone know how you made a difference.
So what are you waiting for? Dive in today.
By nurturing nature with everyday actions, you can help preserve these amazing birds for generations to come.
I couldn't have said it better myself, but there's a lot more information out there. Visit shamutv.com, and by becoming a fan of the SeaWorld and Busch Gardens Conservation Fund Facebook page, you can learn even more ways you can do your part to protect penguins in the wild. Until next time, I'm Bill Street. Thank you for watching and for your help in saving a species.